What's up, traders? Welcome to Vinbo's Signal Factory signal analysis from last week's signal, and then I'm gonna explain over what is gonna happen going into next week. Now, without wasting further time, this was last week's stance. So, without wasting time, I was expecting the market to go directly into 1.1620 from this here to that area right there, but let's see what truly happened during the course of the week. But remember, our price did not change. 1.1500 and 1.14782 was our liquidity zone. So meaning that each and every single time the price reaches this level, we were looking to buy to the upside and reach 1.1620. Now, without wasting further time, this was the original plan of the market, of us going into the market next week, and the only time we were going to change our bias was if the market had went directly and broken this level, the red horizontal line at 1.1372. Now, this was our bias to the upside with the euro and the dollar, and let's see what truly happened. Remember, if the market was shooting up and it failed to break this level, to reach the level, but continued to come and do a second retest here on Monday or on Tuesday, we were still gonna buy it and continue to the upside. Now let's go and see what was the scenario unfolding during the week. Now, I remember the market, as you can see, I will always teach you of what happened last week. The market was not strong enough to reach 1.1620, but started pulling back to our designated area of liquidity, in which we will buy the euro versus the dollar. And then in this scenario, we had also a strong pullback going into this. So let's see how many days it should. And remember, we don't sell the euro unless the stats of the market says otherwise. So we did not sell the euro. We waited and waited for the levels that we marked before the week began, and then when the market starts, we would continue just like that. Let's continue and see. This was Monday, and then the pullback continued on Tuesday to reach our first place. So given the fact that I had already had a buy from this area on Monday, this buy went on like this, and after this I put the stop loss. I trailed my stop to the new recent low, which was this area, and then the market failed to reach our target on Monday, continued back up, took my stop loss, made small profit, and then on Tuesday the market, I did not buy as I was expecting a much more stronger wave, and then a pullback to enter again and then continue to the upside. But instead, what we received was a sharp pullback to our most priced liquidity zone, which is this area right here at 1.1478. Now this area is where I was looking for a continuation to the upside. So this indeed, at this area right here, it was Wednesday early in the morning. It was 2 a.m. in South African time. So what did happen was we did enter, and as I remember, we had a loss later on that evening, the 20 pip loss. I want to show you exactly how we are trading and how we traded from last week. So from last week, we wanted to see, after this entry, I wanted to see the market go directly to our 1.1620, but we did fail to go there, as it was not the result that we were expecting. So how did the trade go? This was another buy, but it also lacked momentum and power enough to break above this high or the recent high to reach our intended target. So without wasting further time, this is a sell that happened, but it was not strong enough, as I was still not intending to buy to sell below this area right here. So every single time we were to get below here, I would look for a buying opportunity. So this buy from here, we had suffered it. This was the entry and this was the exit right here with this spike. And then this was the great time for everyone to see that we need to buy again in order for us to see what the market would unfold. So without wasting further time, let's continue over, move from Wednesday to Thursday. And then on Thursday, we had a buy again. We had two buys for that matter, because after this after this area right here, I bought once and then I got stopped out with this, and then this was the second one, the second buy. And after making 1:3, we did close in order to for us to capture what we have lost or make break even, because we had already lost 3 times. So that we, and also given the fact that it was Friday, I did not expect the market to move as much. But going into next week, this is still the bias to the upside on the euro and the dollar. So without wasting further time or much of our time, let's see what happened. We did take profit right here. It was 1:3 from this area right here with 15 pips risk, and 1:3 really went out there. It was a good trade for us to do a break even. Now what I can tell you is the euro and the dollar, with the dollar gaining momentum last week, we can see the fact that the euro was still strong, hence there was lack of volatility in the week, if despite the Fed remaining bullish, remaining on his bullish stand, despite Donald Trump trying to show him the way of the benefits of cutting rates. But instead, this was not the case. But the market did not react likely on that. As you can see, this happened on Wednesday. This was Wednesday's reaction. The dollar did not get much strength here, but on Wednesday with this signal, I was able to get my 1:3 right here. And on Friday, this was just that. Now going into next week, what I do expect, I will show you what I expect going into next week. So this is last week's review. Now the pound yesterday, as we did last week, as we did mention the fact that it was weaker than the euro, and we did explain again how the euro would be much stronger than the pound and the signals and everything. So without wasting much time, this was last week's expectation. We did expect that the pound would get stronger based on correlation to reach certain levels. We did fail to reach the certain levels, as the dollar pullback was a bit stronger. So this was the scenario also. Remember how many times I've said that this area was a good place for us to buy. So we did buy, of course, and with the same thing as the euro, we did put a stop loss below the new the recent higher low, and then we failed to reach the target right there at 1.3629. We did fail that area, and we went straight down. So let's see how we went straight down. And remember, this was the expectation. Now let's see what the market had unfolded. On Tuesday, the market, this is what we did expect. So we did expect the market after this reaction right here, after this bullish reaction right here, this is what I did expect. I did expect for a continuation to the upside. We did lose 20 pips right here. We did lose 20 pips right here. Broke the liquidity zone. This was the 4-hour liquidity zone, and went straight to the daily liquidity. The daily liquidity is marked with this color right here, this highlighter green. So without wasting further time, we knew for a fact that through, this was on Tuesday, we knew for a fact that this daily liquidity zone was the strongest liquidity, even though it looked like we had already broken to the downside here on 1.3452. Even though it looked like we have already broken to the downside, but I don't think we have already broken to the downside. I'm still looking for bullish patterns and formations going into the next week. So this is what truly happened, given the fact that we do know that this is the daily liquidity. So let's go over and see what truly happened. Now, this was again, given the fact that we follow principles. Remember, let me tell you something. It is better to lose following your rules than to lose not following your rules and not having any rules. So again, this was the expectation, given the fact that this is a daily liquidity. I was expecting to see a strong momentum to the upside. It was on Thursday. Now this was the scenario I entered here, and with the end, after the entry, remember, we had small break even, a small loss, and we had another small loss. So at this point, we knew one thing, that the market could no longer go further down than this area. We would only look for a bias to the upside. So at this area right here, we would look for buying opportunities. Now with these buying opportunities, people can just, at the group, at the WhatsApp group and at the Telegram group, people were like, nah, I think we should sell, but I insisted that selling was not a great idea, as this was the daily liquidity for me. And indeed, some followed, some did sell. Let's see what truly happened at the session that we had. Excuse me. Now, this was the case of last week. We had a buy from here, it got stopped out, and then a re-entry, because the stopped out was just the liquidation of the market. Some people will call it stop hunt, but I don't believe the market is out there hunting people. I just believe that it is the way the market behaves. So without wasting further time, we did make a fantastic buy from this, in which we did make 1:3, because we do not like to let some trades run on Friday because of reasons we only tell our registered members. So without wasting further time, this was a good setup. After making this good setup, this was also a clear 1, 2, 3, a wave, and then obviously after breaking above this would be an area where we would say broken resistance, which might turn support. After this, remember, we had small profit, small loss, and then 1:3 to cover all that happened during the week. So in pretty much the summary of this week was a pretty basic week on the euro dollar and the pound dollar. So this was pretty basic. So without wasting much of our time, how do we do this? This would be the best if you were following us with this. So let's So let's see what happened after the 1:3 take profit. And what I would definitely say or recommend to you guys is the fact that now I think we are structured to the upside with uh, this strong wave that has taken out this liquidity zone here. I believe that from Monday we might start seeing bullish pressure from this area, but we would have to wait and see. Now, without wasting further time, let's go over to the euro and the Canadian dollar, which I think was one of the best pairs this week, and we managed to get some good pips without a deepened pullback from the dollar. The Canadian dollar was one of the weakest currencies this week, and we managed to make some money out of that. So this is what happened. We do reviews each and every single day and every single week. So the weekly review of what truly happened, my daily, day after day, will be shown here on YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe and understand what is happening or what has truly transpired throughout the market. Thank you. Let's go over to the euro and the Canadian dollar. So going into this week, the euro and the Canadian dollar, I remember telling you that on Monday we might just have the market scenario whereby we just start to go directly up to the upside and take our profit, as this was the most this was our liquidation area, the liquidity zone. So this was 1.5663 and 1.5655. This zone has already been our most influential area going into this week, and I would like for us to see what truly happened. If you missed the video, go to the previous video that we dropped it so that you can understand how we attack the market or how we tackle the market. So without wasting much time, let's unfold what truly happened on Monday. This was me, of course. A bounce from my liquidity zone would also mean the fact that I need to buy. So after this small bounce that we've seen here, I went in, and this was my expectation to go straight through on Monday. And let's see what had transpired on this. I remember we did suffer a small loss and then a re-entry. Now, with this small with the small loss that we did, this was the entry, and then it was not enough for us to trail our stop right here, because the market had not, you need to give the market room to breathe. So this was also one of those systems where we were stopped out here almost to the pips. So the market went straight through our stop loss for like 3 pips afterwards. So if we had 4 pips extra on our stop loss or on our trade risk, it would still be one trade in a week where we would just win uncontested. So without wasting further time, we did manage to get, of course, a re-entry right at this level, because any bounce that we get from the levels we set is a direct signals to go for a buy. So we did enter again in expectations to go straight up and shoot. So this was our signal, the best signal of the week. It was on Thursday, and some new traders who had newly registered were scared of this because we were having obviously a different market reaction on the euro dollar and the pound dollar. We had already entered 3 or 4 times on the euro and the dollar, on the euro dollar and the pound dollar. So I know it is correlation, but the Canadian dollar is inverse correlation with not inverse as such, but it's not directly correlated to the dollar. So it was weaker as opposed to the dollar itself. So this was the wave that we had, but we did not break here as we bought here, we already had put a stop loss below the recent higher low, and then this was the continuation. This was just a fantastic setup. On Thursday, we did have a slow day, just like we had in any market, whereby everybody thought that this was another setup to go down, but we had already put our stop loss below here, so it did go as we did expect it to go from here to there. Let's see how we did take profit right on Friday night. This I was on the club, I didn't see the take profit, but I knew that I thought that on Monday things would have been do you see? This was our setup from last week, and we did take profit just an hour before the market closes. And I didn't see this, I just saw this now when I wake up. So without wasting time, this was a fantastic setup for us. This was a fantastic setup for us. This was wave 1, this was wave 2, and this was wave 3, right? This was a fantastic setup for us. This was a good setup for us. No fuss, no drama, no lack of volatility, no short in strength, just pure strength versus weakness. So the Canadian dollar was weaker than the euro, and this was a fantastic setup also. So without wasting further time, let's go over to the pound and the Canadian dollar to see what truly transpired during the week. Now, the pound and the Canadian dollar, as you remember from last week, we said that despite having the strong euro, we would still sell the pound because it was weaker than the euro. So with that being said, all that mattered was the fact that on the euro card we were buying, but on the pound Canadian dollar we were selling, and it didn't make any sense to people because pound dollar we were buying also, but in euro dollar we were buying also. The fact that we were buying on pound dollar is based on correlation on the US dollar currency pair, and the US dollar currency pair is one of those currencies right now where you just go and sell it, retest your liquidity, whether 4-hour or daily liquidity, and go sell it again. It is just like that after this trade tariffs that Donald Trump has imposed on other countries. So I don't want to get to the fundamentals enough right now, but what I would like for us to go over to is how we were expecting this. I was expecting to see a pullback up to this area right here, 1.8497 and 1.8477. Now with this was my selling liquidity. If the market did reach this level, I would sell it right there, or I would continue with the market if it didn't make it and continue to the downside, because one thing, the pound is weaker, and at the beginning of the week the Canadian dollar was relatively stronger than both the dollar and the pound. So let's see what truly transpired on Monday. As you can see, this was the signal that we took. It was just the price was struggling to break above to go and retest, and it was hitting the most significant moving averages. The market also opened on a gap and then closed it. After the close of the gap, we were pretty much sure that this was a sell. We took a sell right here. Before here, this was the first sell that we were going to take before the liquidity, because remember, if the currency is the weakest of the currencies that you are trading, it is advisable that you sell it even before it reaches your liquidity area, as long as it is a correlated sell. So let's see what truly happened. This was, oh, I didn't mention myself. didn't highlight my sell for you. This was the sell and this was the stop loss. Without wasting further time, this was also, let's see how the market transpired. I remember this was a 1:3 take profit. It was not a long one, because remember, if it were to be a long one, it had to be, if it was a long one, it had to have come a bit deeper for me to sell from this area and then continue down and to this maybe newly take profit. But the main target was 1.84114. This was the main target. So after selling this here on Tuesday, was here, we did take out our 1:3, and then afterwards, after the 1:3, this also, remember this, I did mark this highlighted green color as our daily liquidity, and look at the bounce that we did receive. Look at this candle, the green candle that we just received. This was a daily bounce from the daily liquidity, indicating the fact that we should buy, but we had already won, from up there to down there. So this was not the matter that we were overly concerned with. But if we were to buy also, it would have been a nice setup for us. It would have been a nice setup for us, as this was a fantastic sell for us. It would have been a fantastic buy, but indeed we did make money with the sell, and that was it. We do not want to trade many times, so in trading many times you end up ruining your edge or your profit base. This was a one time. We did not suffer any losses in the pound and the Canadian dollar. After winning, we were out, and that was it. Excuse me, I still have a little bit of flu, but the voice is much better today than the last week. And yeah, so without wasting further time, this was the signal. Remember, we bought the euro and the Canadian dollar. We lost once, and the second time we made profit, a big profit. Here we did make a moderate profit, 1:3, but we did not suffer any losses. This was fantastic trade. This is the fantastic setup, given the fact that even on the euro dollar, where we suffered multiple losses, like the first and the second loss, or even the third, we still managed to do 1:3 and recover all that we have lost. Now we go over to the second from last pair, which is the euro and the pound. And as you can see from this analysis, it was a fantastic buy for us. And this was our market analysis on the euro and the pound. We were expecting the market to shoot straight up and take profit right at this blue line, right here at this level, but we did not enter earlier like this, because the spread when the market opens is too big. But we were quite aware enough to realize that the fact that we should get a buy. And I remember this was it. This was one of those buys that we did encounter. Was at the top of this. This was this candle right here. Let me point to it. This big candle right here that bounces on top of the moving average, it signaled a buy to us. And with that being said, we were able to continue to the upside and take our profit. But honestly, let me tell you that I want to clarify some things for you, so that you can also understand how the price is reacting every single time. So after this was a bullish, but we did not entirely reach the target, as 1:3 was. If I were to enter here, 1:3 would have been within the parameters of this take profit at 0.8545. Yet it was smaller than 1:3. This level, it was 1:2.4, 2 point something, but it was small. So the smallest take profit that I can get, that I can reach to as a target was 1:3. So I did wait a little bit because I knew the fact that um, after this we would have this broken resistance right here, which will turn support right here, and also tested our moving average to continue to the upside again and take profit. And we did have a fantastic setup right there. Indeed, this was the case. Oh, this was the case right here. Retest, a second retest of um, the moving average and the broken resistance turning support, and then boom, we did take profit right there also. It was fantastic. See, the thing is, if you already knew, or if you already know the fact that the euro is stronger than the pound, you are going to come to this pair and do what you have to do. Now, without wasting much of our time, let's go to the last but not least pair, which is the US dollar and the Canadian dollar. Now, with this was the expected move from us. We did expect a small pullback, or rather not that small, to this area right here, and then a continuation to the downside to reach 1.35657. Now, without wasting further time, let's see how the market had unfolded versus our plan. Also, this was a great entry there, yet the 1:3 was a bit further down, and we did suffer. We did suffer a 20 pip loss on this move. um our registered members who had taken our master and Fibonacci price action course had already known that this was too sharp of a move to actually think that the market would continue down, as it went through our 61.8 Fibonacci with a strong momentum to the upside. No pullback, no nothing. And this was what we were expecting again also from this area. So we would have continued to sell, but there were obviously different philosophies. Master and Fibonacci price action course had already given the signal that it was already too late for continuing to sell this, despite the dollar being weak. The Canadian dollar was weaker in relative strength to the dollar this week. So this was what transpired on that week. Now, we definitely did not have a fantastic uh, Canadian dollar because I not only use master and Fibonacci price action course strategies, but I also use smart money concepts combined with the beginner to pro ultimate course that we do have. All this is free if you register at our broker XNS. We leave the link below also, and we make sure that you contact us. Now, without wasting further time, this was a second sale, another loss. But as we have already seen that the master and Fibonacci price action course had indicated that at this zone right here, let me point to the zone, at this zone right here, this was too much of a strong momentum from this side to the upside. Now, what we should expect was another retest and a continuation to the upside. But for me, it is not as much of, I'm still looking for bearish patterns and formations to continue to the downside going into next week for the dollar, because the dollar it doesn't even need, even if the economy is doing good, but the dollar keeps on falling, everybody is selling the dollar. So this is the theme until the market has continued. The dollar has gained strength or Donald Trump has lifted all sanctions against currency against other countries. So at this point, we are still looking like this. I want to add gold. Excuse me. I want to add gold as part of this analysis. Because I don't usually send gold to people. We send it on the sessions. We already have a break even on gold. We have a buy here. We have a buy right at this level right here, and then gold, we are still expecting it to reach this level. So if you're not in, find bullish angles and patterns and formations to play this one out. Gold, we will make a lot of money with this one. So without wasting much time, this was a fantastic video. Make sure that you like, you subscribe, and you do not miss this. Most traders or most mentors do not show their losses, do not go over last week's mistakes, or they just show you profit screenshots and everything. So going over and over these videos week in and week out like this shows and helps us to understand what the market was doing and how we have reacted to the market given the certain scenarios. So when you register, it's free. When you register for free, you WhatsApp us, you show us proof of registration, we add you to the Signal group. This is how it happens. Thank you and happy trading going into next week. Shortly, I will release next week's analysis on of the coming week, and yeah, the signals going into next week. But the day-to-day signals are only received by those who are registered, but you can still make money with this analysis that we give on YouTube. Thank you and happy trading.